Welcome. Good morning. In today's video, we're going to break down what it means to be a real estate agent. Is the job actually hard? We're going to bust some myths, both from the public side and from the agent side as well. If you're new to this channel, welcome. My name's Justin Conico. I happen to own a real estate brokerage, but more than that, I'm an agent that's actually in production. I actually put a tweet out recently talking about the fact there's a lot of agents in this business or getting into this business that want to be coaches, influencers, marketers, recruiters, and run large teams, which is fantastic. I think that every business model should fit the person and what they're looking to achieve. That's not what I'm looking to achieve. I've refined that I actually love the art of the deal. I love connecting people with opportunities. I love actually being in the mix. And I built a team. So I've got close to 30 people now. We cover all of Southwestern Ontario, Canada. The heartbeat is London, Ontario, but we sell Woodstock to Sarnia, Lake Huron to Lake Erie. That is a ton of markets. More than that, we do residential, commercial, investments, agricultural properties, recreational properties, and doing all of those asset classes requires a mix of expertise. At one point in time, I was the guy that was doing all of those different things and learning them. And then I brought in partners to help me manage the different asset classes. So I oversee everything from a deal flow perspective. My job is market intelligence and then negotiation strategy. And third, really the platform. When I call somebody and I'm in a negotiation, a lot of that has to do with my reputation, how I've dealt with them in the past, and who I'm learning from. And it all trickles down through Prime. So think of us like a Navy SEAL team of real estate experts that you can deploy depending on what you need. I got my demolitions guy, I got my snipers, I got my medics. I think you understand the concept. What's different about our brokerage, which is important to this segment, is I'm not in the recruitment business. We actually have a waiting list of about 35 to 40 people right now. We only do hirings once or twice a year, and it's typically only when the Navy SEAL team is expanding either to specific markets or asset classes, or balls are getting dropped and we're not getting back to people as quickly as possible. We always try and anticipate that and bring people into the organization. But being somebody that's in production and leadership, the most important thing for me to just really understand intricacies of what it actually means to be a real estate agent and how I can help, say, newer agent or even experienced agents break through. Right. So that's why we're doing this segment is I'm going to break it down start to finish so you can understand where people may fail when it comes to being a real estate agent. If you want to be an agent or if you want to hire an agent, I think you're going to get value from this episode. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I help entrepreneurs and real estate agents with branding, marketing, productivity, sales, and strategy. I don't coach. I'm not accessible from a hourly basis perspective, but I do put all of my content on my YouTube channel. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future opportunities. I have 2 more resources I will share maybe near the middle and the end of the video, but I definitely want to get into the actual video itself. So let's talk about the pros and cons of being a real estate agent. If you actually want to get into the industry, a lot of people do it because they're like, I want freedom. I work a 9 to 5 and I want the ability to run my own schedule. I would say that is one of the biggest myths when it comes to real estate agents. And I don't think it's a job that you can do part-time. We are dealing with one of the largest assets in people's lives. And you have to, be on top of your market and understand your product better than anybody else. And you have to treat it like an actual job. So I would say, yes, you do have the freedom to create your own schedule, but I would argue that you need to have some type of consistent structure in order to succeed as a real estate agent. Because one of the reasons I see people fail is the lack of consistency. I'm not smarter than anybody else. I don't have an insane amount of talent more than anybody else, but I have been way above average in terms of consistency over the length of my career, which has led me to be where I am today. So I think if you don't have structure in your life, there's resources for time blocking. I have PDFs that I'll share with you later on. I have other videos I've done on it. I think having a general structure is helpful. And take this tip. I'll give you a quick breakdown on a way that you can create a time block structure where you can get a ton of work done and still feel like you have time to live your life. What I would recommend is take your Monday to Thursday and put your repeating tasks on those days, right? So the repeating tasks in your business should all be pretty basic. Learn, so take time to study the market and understand it. Find, so go out and find prospects or fill your database and work in your actual database. And then do, and actually do the tasks that you promise people. I think you should probably stack most of your doing tasks in the afternoons or evenings on your Mondays to Thursdays. Leave your mornings clear for prospecting and working on your business. I think it's very, very critical to work on your business and work on your SOPs and how you actually do the things that you promise your clients you're going to do. Another reason real estate agents fail is they don't really have SOPs or plans. They kind of just wing it. Sure, I'll list your house, and then I'll take the photos myself, and I'll book the sign myself, and I'll do this, 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 and this. And they're constantly falling forward. And then somebody like me comes in that has it all documented and it's on a checklist, and I'm able to do what that other agent's going to take an entire day to do in 15 minutes because it's organized, and I can do it 10 times over, and I can still feel less busy than that person that's falling over. So I would say try to divide your day into those blocks. The reason I said Monday to Thursday is you really want to think about repeating tasks Monday to Thursday and then leaving your Fridays, Saturdays, or Sundays flexible. Why I say flexible is 70 to 90% of the time I'm working on a Friday or a Saturday. Sundays, I'm like Chick-fil-A. I let the machine rest. I typically take time off. I have systems in place so that I can do that, but that's the day that I take my rest. Fridays and Saturdays are flex days, meaning if I want to take a 3-day weekend with my wife and daughter and go on an adventure, I have that in my calendar. I know without even thinking about it, Fridays and Saturdays, I've got that flexibility. I can stack my appointments in earlier during the week. I can move things around, and I don't miss my repeating tasks. I think one reason people fail is they end up just stacking their calendar, and then they could never live the life that they want to live. And they feel sad about life because they're not doing the things they love. They resent the job that they have for preventing it from living the life that they want to live. So I'd say that's one of the biggest things that you can change. Another pro is unlimited income. So one of the reasons I got into this business is I worked for somebody else for a very, very long time. And what I found was didn't matter how hard I worked, how much I deserved the promotion, politics would come into play. Jump in the comments and let me know if this has ever happened to you. And maybe I didn't get that promotion, even though all the metrics showed that I deserved it, right? Because I didn't play the political game of what that job may have been. My wife kept pushing me into real estate, and I fought her tooth and nail. I remember saying to her, I don't want to be a grease ball on a golf course. And now if you look at me online and you don't know me, I bet you're like, that real estate agent, I can't believe blah, blah, blah. You think all the things that everybody thinks about real estate agents when you look at me if you don't know me. But she said, the work ethic that you have and the ability to be consistent over time, I really see potential in you. And I can make as little and as much as I want, depending on how much I want to work. Right. So I think the income potential is one of the biggest pros when it comes to this business, but the income potential is also one of the biggest cons because a lot of people, they just look at the commission checks and the gross profit and they're like, oh my gosh, that agent made X amount of percent on that house sale. They must be rich. So another con to this business is people don't run it like an actual business. You can actually run a very terrible business, even if you make a lot of money because you're inefficient. I would say 70 to 80% of agents don't know their numbers. I was working with a top tier real estate coach earlier this week. She coaches 60 of the top teams all across the globe. And she was telling me how shocking it was to see how poorly people actually understand their net effective numbers. So if you're a public facing consumer right now, and we're talking commissions, understand that X percent of a home sale typically will get divided between the buying agent and the cooperating agent. And then those agents will actually pay a split to their brokerage, and then they'll pay their taxes on that. And then they'll pay all their expenses on that as well. I tracked how many hours I can put into a typical home sale. And if you call me, let me jump in the comments and see, say, Olivier Maurice, I see you. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Real estate is fun, fun, fun. It is. He's a killer commercial broker in Quebec. He calls me to sell his house. You know, maybe he calls me last year and he's like, hey, what's my house worth? And we're friends. So I run an appraisal for him. Maybe it takes me an hour or 2 hours. I send it to him. We have a phone call, calls me a couple months later. And this relationship goes on and on for a year. I'm giving him 4 or 5 updates throughout the year. Then I go to his house, give him some suggestions on what he should do. I send over my stager. She does the consulting. We talk about the pricing again. I update him on the market. This is the typical life in a real estate agent. Then we go to list the house. He says, all right, let's do this. My pre-listing SOP is a 55-point checklist. My listing launch checklist is a 75-point checklist. My under contract checklist is a 30-point checklist. And my contract to close is a 20-point checklist. I'm averaging about 45 hours a lot of times from pre-appraisal to the actual pre-launch to the launch to the negotiation to the out. So if you actually looked at your time deployment and said, even if I was, a terrible lawyer and I was getting paid X amount of dollars per hour, plus I added my splits, plus I added my taxes, plus I added my expenses, what is my actual margin? And the biggest advice I'll give people is if you're going to get into this business, treat it like an actual business. Make sure you know your numbers and make sure you understand your time deployment. Flip side of that coin, unlimited potential. There are transactions where you're not spending 45 hours at all and you're still getting a really big paycheck, but you need to net it out like an actual business. So if you want to understand your finances a little bit better, you want me to do a video on that, jump in the comments and let me know. But I'm going to keep going down the list because I think there's a lot more we need to talk about. So the next thing I want to get into is tips for newer people getting into the business. We talked about some of the pros. We talked about some of the cons. I could do an hour-long video about just that. But I think newer agents that are looking to get into the business, one of the biggest things that they struggle with is choosing a brokerage, right? There's all kinds of models out there and not all brokerages are created equally. There's bricks and mortar brokerages out there, and those are your typical big brands that have been around for a really long time. Sometimes they have a real retail location, and they pump a lot of money into building that brand because back in the day, it really mattered, right? You wanted to be with one of the larger brands because you could put the logo on your shirt. It gave you a certain amount of credit. But now we've gone into a stage where people are working with the agents and not necessarily the brokerages as much. So the second model that they're going to look at is the virtual cloud-based model, which a lot of times those models are built so that you don't have to go to an office. You have very, very low fees. You're basically just getting plugged into a system. They'll run your transactions for you, but you're going to kind of do your own thing within that ecosystem. And people do that because A, lower costs for sure, B, because the world's changing. So you don't need bricks and mortar at all anymore, truthfully. The hybrid models are out there as well that have retail locations and they have consumer facing bricks and mortar locations, but they have a hybrid component to them as well. What's really interesting for newer agents coming in is they see all these bright, shiny objects, and the way that they approach the industry is they think, well, okay, I'm going to go interview brokerages because they want me because I'm a newly licensed agent and they want me to work at their brokerage because their business model doesn't work if agents don't work there. Right? They're in the agent recruitment business. The brokerages are in business to run transactions, charge sometimes transaction fees, take a portion of the agent's commission, and then help them run their business as a brokerage house. But if every agent leaves, they may not be there anymore because that's their profit center. So the agents are in the power position where they can interview whoever they want. They get pitched by the brokerages. We created a completely different model, and we're not here to compare models, but we're not that, right? Because I'm an agent in production and we're a company that sells real estate. So when agents come to me, a lot of times I tell them, you can look at all the models out there. You can look at all the split plans. You can look at all the bright, shiny objects, and they're all built to sell you on, we're going to help you build your brand. We're going to give you 10 leads and look at how great our splits are. And you're going to make $1 million working here. I personally think one of the biggest tips I can give any newer agent getting into the business is look for the leadership. I didn't have it when I got in the business. That was one of my biggest failures is I came in and I did the exact same thing all those agents did. I actually went to one brokerage for 2 weeks. Somebody said something to me that completely threw me off in terms of the culture and what it was like to be there. And I left within 2 weeks. I was like, this is not the place for me. I went to another place, worked there for a period of time, really nice people, still friends with them to this day. I still have tons of friends that work there. But for me, it was really understanding that what I wanted to do wasn't going to happen by me being in the ecosystem that I was in where I was at the time. So I reached out to the Ryan Serhants of the world and people that were doing what I wanted to do at a much bigger scale and figured out my way of getting into their ecosystem and then contributing to their ecosystem. So another piece of advice I give a newer agent is get around somebody that's doing what you want to do, give more than you take. Don't go there with an expectation that they're going to drop everything that they're doing to just show you how to build your business so that you can one day just take up and leave and go somewhere else because they're aware that every agents are typically in this business to build their own business. But you can collaborate with that person and show them that you're really in it to build together. Like you're building an ecosystem and a community together. And I think the three biggest core values that we look for people is the ability to be very, very transparent with both goals, things they're struggling with and what they need. The second thing that we're looking for is for them to be very, very driven. You need to be a self-starter to be in this business. I don't think you can just plug into a system and expect somebody else to do it for you. The ecosystems can provide different things that you need to actually get started and make sure that you succeed. But I think you really have to take accountability to your goals and how you want to achieve them, and then make sure that you're doing what you need to be doing. Third thing we're looking for is somebody that's ethical and honest. I don't care if you want to build your business, open up a brokerage and compete with me and take all my clients. I genuinely don't. I would rather be your friend than be salty because you decided to leave the organization. And I'll pray success and everything over you, because I think that if you did that, it's only going to drive me to be better. You're not going to touch my clients because my clients are going to work with me. Your clients are going to work with you. And that's a big misnomer in this industry. And there's not enough food for everybody to eat. Everybody's constantly treating it with this massive scarcity mindset. And I don't think that you need to think like that. So honestly, keep it super, super simple. If you're new in the business, just look for an ecosystem that has what you're looking for. If you are one of those people that lives with a scarcity mindset, find an ecosystem with a scarcity mindset. I'm sure that they're actually out there. In terms of skills and qualifications that I think you need to get into this business, it's very simple. It's three things, right? This business is not uber complicated: branding, marketing, and sales. You have to be able to understand who you are and how you present yourself to the world out there. Another mistake agents make is they just want to be everything to everybody. Understand your niche. I explained it at the beginning of this video. I told you the territories we covered, the asset classes that we cover. Even though I don't have a specific niche from the company perspective, I do from a personal perspective, right? A lot of people are calling me for land development deals, luxury properties. They're calling me for investment strategy, commercial specifically. Actually, I do a ton of commercial real estate. I see Beth Azor is actually in the stream, the canvassing queen. She is amazing, long-term friend. She has a very defined niche and she does a ton of business because of it. I appreciate everybody that's in the chat. I'll get to you in a couple minutes. But I think, really understanding the branding piece. And then the second piece is marketing, right? So you don't necessarily have to have massive marketing aptitude. You could work with somebody that helps you. But I think the second thing from a skill set perspective is the ability to consistently market yourself in different ways to gain exposure. And I've done tons of videos on what that means. You can do organic marketing, you can do social media marketing, you can do content marketing. You don't have to do any video. You can just geo farm. But I think understanding marketing from a high level is super, super important. The last skill that I think you need to have as an agent that you really need to sharpen your sword on, and I want to make this cool again. I think everybody's so concerned with the branding and marketing piece. Our industry has turned into celebritization. Everybody wants to be an Instagram celebrity when it comes to real estate because they're watching Selling Sunset. I want to make sales cool again. My ability to have a client call me and me get a deal done that nobody else could have get done is the best feeling in the world. Being a salesman is one of the most beautiful arts on the planet. No different than being a painter or a musician. There is an art to the deal. And I don't think people understand that. I genuinely mean that. And just like an artist, you have to practice your skill set. And I'm not talking about sitting in a dark room reading scripts to trick people into buying something. I'm talking about communication. I'm talking about discovery. I'm talking about creativity. Things that people pay me a lot of money for are those things. It's not my Instagram posts. Instagram is a lie. The comparison trap is a lie. Yes, I get leads and I do business off. It took me a decade to do that. People don't call me for that. They call me because I know my market, and they call me because I can get deals done that nobody else could get done. And I save them money and time. So practice your sales skill. I think you can tell I'm getting a little bit fired up about that. And in terms of qualifications, this is a bit of a loaded one. Real estate industry has done a terrible job from an education perspective. So you don't need any qualifications. You actually take less time in real estate school than it takes to get your hairdresser's license. I definitely need a haircut right now. So maybe there's a reason for that. But in terms of skills and qualifications, you just need the ability to go there, get your license and learn. I hope education changes in the future, because I do think that real estate education should be at a much, much higher level, closer to a CPA, financial advisor. A lot of real estate agents are acting like financial advisors on Twitter and at TikTok, and I think that needs to change, but neither here nor there. In terms of the different types of clients you're going to meet, is being a real estate agent hard? This can be one of the most difficult things about being a real estate agent. The types of personalities that you're going to meet are varied. You can meet some people that you call off Facebook because they clicked on one of your ads and they tell you they hate you and they hang up on you. That's the reality of what it could be to be a real estate agent. It happens all the time. It's very confusing because, hey, Mike, it's Justin from Prime. You clicked on my ad for my beautiful lakefront property in Grand Bend. I hate you. Don't ever call me again. Click. I could take that super personally and be like, wow, he really doesn't like me. Or I could realize that this is some random person off Facebook that probably does that to everybody, and that's his issue, not mine. And I could hang the phone up and I go on to my next call, right? So you have to have a little bit of thick skin to be able to deal with rejection in this business. The more you do it, the more you get to a place where you're going to attract the right types of clients and you're going to repel the wrong types of clients. Here's another example. right? We're very high level in terms of our pricing, marketing, negotiation strategy. I will go to a listing appointment. Somebody will ask me to discount my commission. That's another type of person you'll meet quite often. And I typically don't do it because I know my value proposition compared to what they could do on their own or hiring a discount agent is. And I could show them the actual data and I could back it up with case studies, that I'm not prepared to take it at a reduced price point. Because at the beginning of this video, I told you I run my business like a business. So I'm not going to lose money on a transaction just because I want to get a sign up, right? I'm not going to buy the listing and just tell them a price that's unachievable because I want the brand exposure. That will happen, right? So if you're a consumer watching this, understand people will buy your listing by telling you whatever you want to hear and doing it for whatever commission, typically because value is only a discussion in the absence of value, or price is only a discussion in the absence of value, right? If they don't have anything they can show you that would make you want to pay a higher fee, then they're just going to do it for whatever so they can get a sign up, because every time you get a sign up, you get like 5 more clients from that sign up, even if the property doesn't sell. But do you as a client want to go through 6 months of showings and everything else to just not have your house sold? Another issue you got to think about as an agent is you don't actually get paid unless that property sells. As a consumer, you don't actually pay anybody unless that property sells. So that's another type of consumer that you're going to meet. Another type of consumer you're going to meet is the one that gets it, right? The ones that understand your business model, understand your value proposition. And quite often, they're the ones that have come through past client referral, repeat business through this channel. I'm getting calls every day off of this channel and off the Prime Real Estate Brokerage real estate channel because they've watched 60 hours of my content. They understand my expertise. They get my market updates, and they know that I can do what I say I do because they see my track record, right? And those are my favorite types of clients, because when I'm going in, I'm not selling them on who I am. My favorite type of clients to work with are the ones that understand that I'm a human being beyond just being a real estate agent. I like when I can walk in and that wall is not up, that they just think, oh, this guy's going to sell me whatever because he's dressed in a suit and he's in real estate. I really enjoy the clients that understand I'm there to figure out what are their problems, what are their concerns, what are the assets that they're dealing with, and how can I best advise them right now. So you're going to find a myriad of clients. What I would recommend people do is they go find the very best clients that they can and work with more of their favorite clients and less of the ones that they don't get a good feeling with. Saying no is one of the most powerful words in the English language. I'm going to share with you guys a resource too for all the tips that I shared earlier. I'm going to drop this in the chat. If you go to justinconoco.com/resources, some of the tips that I gave you guys around time blocking, I actually did PDFs for. I actually shared these PDFs. They're free. Again, there's no clickbait. I'm not selling you anything. You just put your name and email. It'll get you on my weekly roll up and you'll get access to a Google Drive with all of these PDFs. I'm not fancy. That's the easiest way that I could figure out how to do this, but it helps you with a lot of the things that I was just sharing you today. This is a daily planner sheet that you can actually print 365 if you want, and then use my actual daily planning. And this is actually for agents if you want to understand how to run the perfect open house. We just dropped this one. Also, if you enjoy this video, let me know in the comments. I want to know what type of content you want me to create. I think it's super important that I create content for the community. And I don't care if you're a real estate agent, if you're an entrepreneur, somebody in business. Like I said, I understand branding, marketing, sales, and running teams, also creating content. This link right here too, buddy, one of my favorite tools for understanding what type of content to create. It's what I use to manage my YouTube channels. And these are some courses that I took and some other assets. But at the very bottom, these are the actual things that I use from an equipment perspective, right? These are the different lights. I wouldn't even say get crazy. Don't get too crazy with the cameras and these lights. These are pretty expensive. Just a simple GoPro, a simple iPhone, and then actually having this right here, the Rode wireless microphone Go 2 is one of your best devices you can have. Good audio quality and good ability to put the content out there is going to make it a lot more achievable. And I promise I give you guys another resource. The Prime People podcast is another one for you. I go very in depth on every single topic I discussed in this video with different people. So I bring on experts onto the Prime People podcast and I get very in depth as to who they are and how they achieved what they achieved. This is a really good episode for content creation with Tony Salazar. He runs a production company called 8 Limbs Creative. He was actually a global jiu-jitsu competitor, and he gets into how you can create short form content yourself or how you can hire high level content production yourself. The one below him, Bobby Umar right here, he's got 500K on Twitter. He's got a massive LinkedIn presence. He runs some amazing networking groups, and we talk about that, about creating networks and building your presence on LinkedIn and Twitter, which which I'm very bullish on for 2023. So I checked that episode out. And then I'll highlight this one, Carolyn Eckert, how to get more referrals. I'm implementing her strategies right now to go into Facebook groups and find communities of people. And I'm getting business from these communities. So I definitely recommend you check that one out. I appreciate you being here every week. I'll check the comments after the video. And if anybody wants anything specifically done for this channel, let me know. I'll give a couple shout outs to people that I see here. Sam John, I see you. Abundant Health Services. Thank you so much for being here. Linnell Burns, you're an absolute superstar. If anybody sees any of these names, go check out their channels as well. I have one of the best communities on the planet. Wally, I see you. Mr. Leonard Terry, I appreciate you so much. You're a wonderful human being. Beth, I will see you soon. Mike Seal kills it in Windsor. Sheila Santini, I see you as well. Thank you so much. I do this because iron sharpens iron. As the countenance of one friend sharpens another. I'm eternally grateful that you all made it here today for my live stream. And I'm going to try and launch another killer one next week. So let me know what you want me to do next week, and I will dive deep into it. Thanks for this segment. And let me know if you got some value. Smash that like and that subscribe button. I'll catch you next time.